Is there a better feeling than paying cash for a large purchase? I mean, you save up and put that money away diligently until finally you're able to make that major capital purchase. But today we're going to talk about, is cash really king? Is that good feeling really worth it? Hi, I'm Olivia Kirk.
I'm Tim Yurek. We're from Tier 1 Capital, and we're here to show you how to regain control of your money.
When it comes to paying cash for major purchases, I mean, it's simple. You save up the money and you finally are able to go out and make that major purchase. It's a good thing because you're not spending money that you don't have, and you're not wasting interest by putting it on credit or overextending your monthly cash flow. But how does it actually end up holding us back in the long run?
So the reality is it's really hard to save cash, to save money. And so as hard as that is, now you're defying odds by building up this cash position. And you've got this wonderful cash position, and now it's time to make a major purchase, maybe a car, maybe a vacation, maybe real estate. And so what do? Cash is king. So you pay cash. And now the thing that's true about paying cash is you save on paying interest. Mm-hmm. But the things that's not true or that's not seen is the interest you don't earn when you drain down your cash to zero. Now you're no longer earning interest on that. And it was really easy for about 20 years when the Fed was artificially lowering the interest rate and keeping that interest rate down. So as a saver, you weren't earning anything. So you didn't feel like you were losing anything. But we use an opportunity cost of 4 to 5%. So the question became, well, yeah, but I'm not earning 4 to 5% on my savings. And our response to that was, well, that's a choice. How come you're not making that choice? And then we educate people as to where you could put money to earn 4 to 5% on your savings.
Exactly, without taking on additional risk and still maintaining that liquidity use and control of your money. But, a lot of times the things that we do and the way we use our money, we talk about this all the time, is how we were taught and how we saw our elders or our role models using their money. And a lot of times they paid cash. And even thinking back to my childhood, I remember when people paid cash or used checks to buy groceries. Now, I mean, you don't even have the option in most of the self-checkout lines to pay cash.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because where do we learn this, that cash is king? Well, we learn it from our parents. Now, my father never had a checking account until he was like 73 years old because Social Security demanded to have direct deposit. He had to set up a checking account. So think about this. He went through 73 years of his life without a checking account. And my father's philosophy was, if you can't afford to pay cash, you don't need it. Mm-hmm. And now that was back in the day, keep this in mind, to buy a car, we didn't buy elaborate new cars. We bought used cars that cost $600, $700. So he would save money in order to pay cash for a car. Now, keep this in mind. My parents died, they weren't rich. They didn't have a lot of money. I think, my dad died after my mom, and I think his net estate was like $50,000 and the house was $40,000.
Wow, that was really good. Because he didn't have a huge income at any point.
No, he didn't, but he was able to save some money. But I think about how much interest he didn't pay, and had he paid more interest, he might have had 3 or 4 times that liquid amount of cash or capital available at his death. But he didn't know any better. And everybody knows my story that in 1993, I realized that I was living pay to pay despite the fact that I was making really good income. And it was because of how I was trained to use my money. I was using my money in a way that was detrimental to me, but beneficial to the banks, the financial institutions, the large corporations I was dealing with. And once I learned how to view things through the lens of being in control of my money, that's when everything changed.
So the tricky part about paying cash versus paying interest on credit is we never see the interest that we don't earn on that money, right? So we just think that money's there, it's safe, it's liquid, we could touch it whenever we want to buy whatever we want, but we don't see the interest that we're not earning in perpetuity on that money, right? So think about the compound interest curve. It starts off slow, but as time goes on and contributions continue to be made, that curve gets steeper and steeper.
Right. And so it's tricky because the key to financial independence is not paying things off or paying cash because you can. It's knowing you can if you choose to. That's where the independence comes from.
Right. And think about it this way. Whether you have the cash on the side or pay off that debt, your net worth is exactly the same.
Yeah.
But the difference is stark, right? So the difference is controlling this pool of cash and having the debt and the option to pay that debt off versus taking that cash, paying off the debt, and now you have an empty pool. There's no money in your pool. And that does not feel good, right? Because you have to refill it.
Well, think of it this way. Let's say you have $100,000 of debt and you also have $100,000 in cash. So your net worth, everything else will isolate these two situations, the debt and the asset. Your net worth is zero, okay? And you come along or somebody comes along and says, hey, you're paying 7% interest on this loan. Why don't you pay cash and look at all the interest you'll save? And they can show you the amortization schedule, and yes, you could see that. But what you don't see is that when you pay cash, you no longer control that $100,000. And you take that $100,000 of cash, you pay off the debt, and yes, two things happen. You save on interest paid, and you save on a monthly payment that you were having to utilize to service that loan. But what you don't see is the interest you don't earn. And the other thing you don't see is that now you don't have control of $100,000. So the day before you paid it off, you controlled $100,000. Your net worth was zero. The day after you pay it off, you no longer control $100,000 and your net worth is zero. So here's the question. Are you making any progress? Or did you really regress? Did you really take a step backwards? And that's the key.
We'll see this a lot in situations where people come into a large chunk of money as well, right? So I know a lot of people will buy term insurance in hopes that if their partner dies and they no longer have that income, they'll want to pay off the mortgage as soon as possible because that feels really good and makes them feel secure. But what they don't realize is the opportunity cost and the control of the money and the things that could have been done, right? Obviously, you were able to maintain at least a portion of the mortgage in the first place, but now you don't have this money and you lose opportunities when you give up that money.
Yeah. And this reminds me, as we're talking about this, what Nelson Nash taught me. And he said, we finance everything we buy. And by that, what he meant was, you're either going to borrow money and pay interest or pay cash and give up interest. Mm-hmm. It's either pay up or give up. There's no in between.
So what it all comes down to is paying cash doesn't necessarily make you a king. Whether it feels really good in the moment, but it's one of those decisions that feels good, but could actually be holding you back. If you'd like to learn about more money tips for your specific situation, how you could get ahead and stay ahead, visit our website at tier1capital.com to schedule your free strategy session today. We'd be happy to talk to you. Also, if you like this video, be sure to give us a thumbs up and check out these two. We picked them out special for you.
Thanks so much for watching our video. And remember, it's not how much money you make.
It's how much money you keep that really matters. We'll see you in the next one.